Hi, I'm Collin Schwartz. I'm the General Counsel and Chief Regulatory Officer for TruSight, which is a third-party vendor assessment company primarily servicing the financial services industry. Today we'll be talking about strategies for success in leveraging cloud platforms and how the risks and security threats may impact customers and third parties. Today I'm joined by Rani Urbas, who is the Global Head of Enterprise Trust for Google Cloud, as well as Jim Reavis, co-founder and CEO of the Cloud Security Alliance. Okay, let's jump right in. Jim, in the view of CSA, what does the future of cloud risk and security hold?
Great question, Colin. So I think what's really important for us to realize is that cloud really, with its adoption, become the default IT system worldwide, cloud first. It's where things are at. And so certainly when you think about cybersecurity, its foundation is cloud security. So the threat actors, the malicious people out there, they're certainly engineering more specific cloud native attacks, you might say, and that's certainly an area that we have to be very vigilant about, from understanding that and the threat intelligence that we're sharing. But I think also what we should expect is that from a cloud user tenant side, we expect a lot of the breaches and concerns to be related to what you might call the basic blocking and tackling and the overall cloud hygiene, have an understanding of where all your workloads are, all of those sorts of things to make sure that you are doing a reasonably good job in all of the basics of cloud security are very important while we look to actually engineer more resilient security defenses. So I think from a government organizational policymaker perspective, you can certainly see that there's so much more action here. You could point to the activities in Europe, GDPR, and so many other areas to assure privacy and to make sure that we are protecting citizen data, customer data. The SEC recently has issued some guidance on what they're proposing for new rules in terms of breach disclosure and how the board actually looks at cybersecurity. There's a lot of cloud native, very interesting security technologies like zero trust, I think, are going to be very important as we see cloud be in this default area. We've got to take that sort of least privilege model to be able to make sure that we are securing our assets appropriately.
Great, thanks, Jim. Ronnie, my next question is for you. How should risk and security professionals be thinking about managing their risks in the cloud, either whether they've adopted cloud already or whether they're on that journey for transition to the cloud?
Yeah, it's a great question, particularly coming out of this pandemic. Digital transformation and cloud adoption is accelerating among our customers, really across the board. But we see it a lot, in the financial services industry. And the adoption of cloud is an increasing imperative for our customers to remain competitive and to fully realize the technology, the data, the benefits of using this type of technology to further their business objectives. And as businesses speed up their digital transformation, it's really putting pressure, primarily in very constructive ways, of course, on our customers' security, risk, compliance, and audit functions. Risk management in the public cloud must match the technology fitness of the rest of your organization. But then to suggest, however, that your organization's adoption of cloud introduces just a new series of risks to manage would not really be an accurate statement. The adoption of cloud technologies is a significant opportunity for organizations to reimagine how whole classes of enterprise risks can be managed better. Adopting cloud technologies and adjusting business practices, processes, operating models to fully realize the advantages of the cloud really provides our customers with an opportunity to step change their management of operational risk. Now, these risks can be addressed and mitigated using cloud in ways that were either technically, organizationally, or economically not viable with traditional on-premise and managed service systems. So there are really three areas that I think about, Collin, for this question. One is the area of cybersecurity, as Jim has already talked about how important it is. I think that cloud providers really typically have global scale infrastructure that was designed from inception, ground up, to provide security through the entire stack and the entire information processing lifecycle, right? The sheer scale of cloud service providers in terms of personnel, volumes of data, the extent and reach of global networks means that we're able to invest in approaches to security that are really beyond technical and commercial means for most private organizations or public organizations. The scale of what we're doing allows us to drive down the unit cost to our customers. The second area that I want to talk about is in the area of resilience. And cloud providers operate data centers with advanced physical security in locations around the world. Now, the scale of these data centers and the abstraction of physical technology from customer applications means that customers can benefit from the layers of built-in resilience. Our customers are shielded from the effects of component failure. And to mitigate the concentration risk, organizations can leverage open source technologies and control planes to build exit strategies, and thereby also meeting the requirements of their regulators. Now, in the area of technology risk, it is apparent that many organizations are at an inflection point regarding their technology. It's been at least 50 years since large organizations started using mainframes, and many trillions of dollars have been invested largely on on-premise, self-managed technology. Now, historically, that meant that organizations built their own data centers, their global networks. They manage hundreds and thousands of servers and PCs. But by migrating to the cloud, organizations can ensure that their technology teams are focused on delivering high quality services and experiences for their customers, and not just operating and maintaining foundational technologies. And, oh, by the way, that also reduces their technology risk profile. And let me just share one very quick example with you. By migrating to the cloud, customers no longer have to dedicate resources to managing data centers, physical servers, network equipment, nor do they have to worry about patching, applying security fixes, and maintaining core operating systems. All of that reduces technical debt.
Some great insight for our security professionals. Thank you. Jim, there's a lot of discussion around the requirements around cloud and how we've been borrowing from pre-existing requirements that aren't necessarily specific to cloud. So my question is, how would adopting a standardized framework such as CSA's cloud controls matrix help with the due diligence and risk assessment for our security professionals?
Yeah, happy to address that, Collin. So the cloud controls matrix, which has been around now for I think close to 12 years, was something that we created with inspiration with all of the knowledge that's out there about risk management and controls frameworks previously, but really understanding a few things like what areas of security and the mitigating controls get greater emphasis in a cloud environment. And you can look at identity as being a critical area. You could look at administrative access. The stakes are much higher there. And so we emphasize certain areas. We also introduced in it that shared responsibility model in there, so organizations understand this complexity, that which are the areas that the cloud provider really needs to take the first line of responsibility for, like the physical security of the data center, for example. What are the things that might be another third party, a SaaS application? What are the areas that they need to be responsible for? And what ultimately does the end user enterprise need to be responsible for? And so we help provide that. And then we do something that is, I think, very beneficial, which is mappings, where we try to say, hey, here's existing frameworks out there that you may be using. Here's where they relate one-to-one or very closely. Here's where some of the gaps are. And so ultimately what this does is it gives an organization that maybe has an excellent information security management system, really a bridge towards what they need to be doing specifically in cloud. So they can leverage what they've already done, they can add some of the new things that they must emphasize, and by using something that's standards-based, it's something that likely the cloud providers are already well familiar with. And so it just accelerates and simplifies the cloud adoption, the procurement, and the risk assessment.
Rani, how has Google's work with third parties such as CSA or TruSight enabled your customers to meet their due diligence requirements?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Now at Google, we're really committed to find the safest and the most comprehensive security solution in the cloud. Core to our goal of delivering security innovation is the ability to offer powerful features as part of our cloud infrastructure and making it easy, removing the complexity for our customers to implement and use those features. And that really helps our customers better manage their risk management and regulatory compliance requirements. Now, as part of working with our partners like CSA and TruSight, we really enable our joint customers to satisfy, scale, and really I want to focus on accelerating their due diligence requirements in a very sustainable way. And that really directly translates to a more safe, coordinated, and consistent approach to their digital transformation across the different business units within the organization. Now, we work a lot with TPRM exchanges like TruSight, and that's really helped our financial services customers, streamline this effort. And TPRMs perform rigorous assessments of Google Cloud, not just Google Cloud Platform, but also other Google services like Google Workspace and Google Common Infrastructure Services to really validate the design and the implementation of hundreds of controls. The validation process includes detailed reviews of and inspections of our design documents, policies, procedures, programs. The validation of supporting evidences really results in a very comprehensive and independent due diligence assessment. Now, we're also committed to supporting customers' risk management programs, and our partnership with organizations like CSA exemplifies that commitment, providing customers with a comprehensive framework in order to identify, measure their risks to achieve their business objectives is what CSA and standard bodies would like to do. And so we really want to work hand in hand to make sure that any new standards and frameworks are robust, they are cloud native, and covers the risks that are most pressing and pertinent for our financial services customers. So we really value our partnership with both TruSight and CSA and other TPRMs because they really provide our customers with very strong cross-functional and industry expertise on compliance and risk management, and that all of that translates to enabling our customers to accelerate their digital transformation.
Great.
Yeah.
So I'd like to open my last question to both of you, given your unique perspectives, either as a deliverer of frameworks or as a cloud service provider. But what trends are we seeing in the cloud space that are specific to the financial services industry that will impact your customers?
Great question, and certainly with financial services often being an early adopter or leader in cybersecurity from an end user enterprise perspective, it's something that we do take a look at. So I think as you adopt more cloud and you get more central into cloud, and we recently had a survey that showed that there's a lot more of the crown jewels going into cloud in terms of workloads. And we actually just released a study that was jointly done with Google that showed that a lot of cloud adoption can actually reduce some of the risks if you do it very thoughtfully. And there were a fair amount of financial services organizations that were part of that. But what we hear again and again right now are the ideas of systemic risk and what do we need to be doing about that. So even some of the largest financial institutions may have some dependencies on SaaS organizations or other technology providers that can be smaller, and you can look at the fintech industry as being an example of it can vary quite a bit in the security maturity. So the ideas of third party and fourth party risk are very important right now for financial services, and there is a real focus on that you can't make your organization resilient by ignoring the partnerships. That's really important. And so I think another trend we're seeing is more of this harmonization with cybersecurity and best practices on a horizontal level, and understanding that a lot of the risks that we have do actually happen in other industries as well. And so something CSA has done recently to that end is a partnership with Cyber Risk Institute, which is a spin-off out of BITS for people who are familiar with them, to really look at financial services specific protection profile that they provide and having that inclusive of our cloud controls matrix, so that the financial services industry can actually benefit from some of those best practices and control objectives that come from the broader industry as well.
Rani?
Yeah, so future trends, it's a really good question. As the saying goes, the future depends on what we do in the present. So even as we talk about future trends that will impact us, down the road, this discussion is, I believe, a more immediate call to action. So as Jim said, and I want to really emphasize and amplify what Jim just said about cybersecurity, it is top of mind for every one of our customers at C-level, the board agenda, and given the increasing prominence of software supply chain exploits and data breaches and ransomware, and other attacks, this is unprecedented security challenges for really all organizations in every industry. And so earlier this year, we formed the Google Cybersecurity Action Team, which is the security cornerstone of Google Cloud's commitment to be the best partner to our customer. And in addition, Google has dedicated another $10 billion over the next 5 years to strengthen cybersecurity, including expanding Zero Trust that Jim had mentioned. Zero Trust programs, securing software supply chain frameworks, really enhancing our open source security and strengthening the digital skills of the American workforce. We're committed to that. And also with this increased focus on cybersecurity, coupled with the pandemic, has forced really all of us to work very differently, including closing of trading floors and sending scores of employees to work from remote locations. It's not surprising that financial services regulators are requiring a higher level of scrutiny into the cloud environments and the supporting technology stack. That includes threat detection, encryption protocols, and a lot more. And as a result, we see more of our financial services customers adopting a zero trust approach network where all access requests require verification of user identity, device location, and really effectively enabling location-independent, secure access that Jim had also touched on. The other trend that we see is around supply chain scrutiny. We saw that financial services regulators are really focused, and globally, they are focused on more accountability for third-party suppliers and subcontractors and sub-processes. We saw an increased scrutiny on third-party risk management, encapsulating really everything from the vendor due diligence to customer-led audits and third-party and secondary relationships. Another trend that we've noticed with our FSI customers was greater partnerships that we're seeing in the industry with third-party IT vendor management companies like TPRMs, like TruSight, working more with CSA and adopting global standards. Now, these relationships provide really very concrete ways for our customers to really march on the modernization path of their data and their business systems, and also accelerate their risk assessment best practices to keep up with the business units within their organization. So privacy, risk, compliance landscape, we all know this being in the industry, has been very fluid, will continue to be very fluid. Changes constantly and rapidly. And at Google Cloud, we have successfully demonstrated our commitment to financial services customers over the years, and we continue to invest and innovate to better support our customers, not just with their security requirements, but really with their cloud digital transformation requirements too.
We've seen, I think in the past, the trend has been for financial services to take a more deferential approach to their regulators in how they should manage their risks, how they should manage security threats. And what we're seeing today, I think, is more an internal push from the industry itself to address these issues because they are so critical. Well, that concludes our discussion today on managing risks and security threats in the cloud. I'd like to thank Rani and Jim for providing their insight on the topic, and you for joining us and listening in today. Thank you.